Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Once again, it's Matthew with Watty's channel. We are returning to the WWF Hasbro review. So, in the last video, I kind of cut the video off a little bit abruptly, I would say. I really wasn't planning on having like a 50-minute video, and I felt like if I had completed the rest of the figures from Series 1, it would have been, a 45 to 55-minute video. So, I'm always leery of your guys' time in watching these episodes, so I try to keep it to a certain amount of time if I can. So, back in Series 1, let me bring it up real quick. So, WWF Hasbro Series 1, 1990 release. So far, in the first video, we reviewed Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, Macho Man, The $1 Million Man, Jake Roberts, Big Boss Man, and Brutus Beefcake. So, 7 figures that we've reviewed in Series 1. Series 1 is one of the largest series of released figures. I think once you get to Series 2, you're up to like 14 figures. I think Series 3 had a pretty good release. I think somewhere around 12 or 13 characters, if I'm not mistaken. But, realistically, once you get to, Series 6 and later, Series 6 I think had like 6 figures. Series 9 probably had like another 6 figures. Series 11 had 7 figures, etc. So, in later series, the numbers are going to dwindle down significantly. So, your first few series are obviously going to produce the most, with the latter series being relatively small in comparison. So, once we get to those series, all in all, should fit in one video with no question about it. But let's dive into the last batch of 5 figures that we have for this series. So, first one we're looking at, and these guys were released twice. So, if you happen to find these figures on card, they come with a pretty significant price tag associated with them. This one is a Spanish card, so it didn't cost me quite as much, but you're still in the multiple $100 range when you purchase these figures. From Demolition, we've got Smash. And Smash, I can't read this because it's in Spanish, so I don't even know what his action feature would be called. Probably kind of using like the other characters that use his name to kind of do an action, but yeah, it's all in Spanish, and I can't read Spanish, so 2 years of high school Spanish that taught me nothing. So, Demolition. As you guys know, Demolition had 2 releases. It was Ax and Smash on single card in Series 1, and then in Series 2, you had Smash and Crush, and they also had the accessories. Even though I keep Ax and Smash in Series 1, I do actually put these little helmets on them, and there was no accessory for Ax, but I try to keep all of Demolition with the little accessory. Again, another awesome piece. So, Smash is kind of like the Series 2 Honky Tonk Man. As far as playability, the way that the arms are shifted forward, legs nice spread apart. Excuse me. Demolition, easily one of my top 3, top 4 all-time favorite tag teams. And so, in the 1980s, Road Warriors, they were sometimes AWA wrestlers, but they really bounced around from territory to territory. And even in latter years, going to WCW, going to WWF, etc., it never seemed like the Legion of Doom were ever in one area for too long of a period. But Road Warriors were a significant draw for the AWA, and just an absolutely beloved tag team. So, what did Vince McMahon do? In the 1980s, he created Demolition. Guys in leather with face paint, kind of reminiscent of that of Hawk and Animal. And it's kind of funny that once Legion of Doom came to the WWF, I think around 92 or so, that a lot of fans and a lot of people kind of compared them to Demolition, saying that they were a ripoff of Demolition. And I always thought that was hilarious. And I'll mention this story again when I do the Legion of Doom review in Series 4. Because now the Legion of Doom are ripping off Demolition, who were ripping off Legion of Doom. And but this particular action figure, I think like $1 Million Man and a bunch of others, all he has is a little uppercut punch. Again, this one is not the most mint figure. I mean, the waist feels feels a lot loose, and the action, it works, but it's not the best. You know, it should really shoot right up like that. Just an absolutely beautiful figure for Demolition. So we got Demolition Smash, and then we move on to tag team partner Demolition Ax. So again, here's another Spanish card. Same thing, like the Hulk Hogan that we saw in the last video. He just has the gorilla press. That is his finisher, or his action feature. And Mattel Retros, they got a lot of characters like Diesel and who else has it? I'm trying to look behind me. Brock Lesnar, etc., where they just raise their arms, they shoot back down. I think I don't know, Jimmy Hart might have that feature as well, as as an example, and that's okay. Whether you're looking at open hand or closed hand, the gorilla press is, in my opinion, one of the better features of the action figures. Again, he never came with an accessory. He was only released in Series 1 on single card. But, again, I keep all of the Demolition characters with accessory. Another beautiful action figure. Clearly, as far as paint job is concerned, not quite as impressive as that of Smash. That's okay. It is a solid overall figure, and I think this one's got to be mint. Nah, he had a little bit of paint bleed or paint loss on the feet, but this is just an awesome figure overall. I prefer Smash with the action, but with so many of these characters having this type of feature, that's okay. Ax. I'm trying to think. Outside of Demolition, I really don't remember too many characters that they may have portrayed outside of them. I think in 1990 Royal Rumble or Survivor Series, was it? It may have been Survivor Series, that saw Demolition drop the tag team belts to Brett and Jim, Hart Foundation. But I always kind of feel like there are certain heavyweights during my childhood as far as tag teams are concerned, and Demolition, Legion of Doom, those were definitely guys that you kind of gravitated towards. And I've said it. What video was I on? Probably one of the Remco videos. I saw something about, back in the day when championship belts actually meant something. And it's because nowadays championship belts are dropped like crazy. Like every 5 minutes you got a new champion. And it's not just that. They've got about 20 different championships out there. And it's just so frustrating. 24-hour champion, hardcore champion, European championship, just all this stuff. I'm like, don't need all that. Heavyweight champion, Intercontinental champion, tag team champion. I'm okay with that. Intercontinental champion is just number 2. That's how I always viewed it. Number 2 is that's your second highest award essentially. Tag teams, because there's multiple people, your third highest award. Yeah, there's just way too many things out there nowadays that me not following wrestling in over 20 years, almost a quarter of a century now, I don't even know all the championship belts. I keep seeing on eBay a lot of all of these different belts, and I look at them, I'm like, what are all these? They just look so unfamiliar, and because I try to bid on them sometimes only for the sake of me wanting to have real belts on my figures. When I talk about real belts, I'm not talking about these little laminate belts that I talk about all the time that I absolutely despise. Why? Look at this. You see how the little Velcro is always coming off? It doesn't stick on there, and Even the snap on the Velcro, it's not all that great. People, and they have them on these like little foam backgrounds. I bought a million of these even after I bought my first set, and I hated it. I still bought more because, again, I just want belts for the figures. And a lot of these things, they're just pretty random. At first, when I started belting the figures, I'm like, you know what? I want those that had heavyweight championship to be have the heavyweight championship belt. Those that have been Intercontinental champion, I want them to have it. Vice versa, tag team, same thing. Then they got like 6-man tag team and women's champion belts and all this other stuff. I put the women's championship belt on Ric Flair. I kind of mentioned before, it wasn't shade to Ric Flair. It just happens to be that his action figure had the smallest or thinnest body, and I wasn't going to put it on 1-2-3 Kid or Rick Rude, so I wanted him to be champion, so hey, he's my women's champion. Speaking of Rick Rude, and he's got the Rude Awakening headlock, and this is a crappy card. I really never realized how bad this card was. So, Rick Rude not only has the worst LJN figure, but Rick Rude also has the worst Hasbro figure. And I would assume that Rick Rude is a beloved character. I mean, he must have really pissed somebody off in WWF that they kept doing this to him with all these terrible figures. And luckily, Hasbro only came out with 3 different characters that possessed this stupid pose. So you think of like Lex Luger from Glue, arms out like this, can't really do anything with it. It's just a really crummy figure. Or Ron Simmons from Glue, arm attached to the body. If his arm was out more like this, would that make a difference? Absolutely not. And there's no difference with this right here. I get it. You're supposed to like put somebody in a headlock and kind of punch them in the face. Nobody is ever using that feature with this figure. I can almost promise you that. So basically, this is pretty much a right-handed punch only type of figure, and kind of like the guys with the punching motion. I don't like the fact that they gave them, had the holes in the back where the spring has to spring load back and forth. So that takes away from the figure's presentation. The pose is garbage. The right arm on here is very weak. Waist up, garbage figure. Waist down, it's kind of like almost like Jake Roberts or something. Good color scheme to the pants. Not bad. Good leg positioning. Good for like kicking and whatnot, drop kicks, what have you. You get a good figure like a Bret Hart or something like that, or a Series 3 Hogan that has arms out kind of pose. This is a perfect figure for body slamming. So it does have its credentials as far as a playable figure, but as a fighter, you just can't do anything. I mean, there's a reason why I have him listed as the worst Hasbro figure of all time. Rick Rude, one of my favorite bad guys, but the man gets no love when it comes to action figures. And I might have to replace this one with the new Rick Rude, because this doesn't look... I want my loose figures to be as in solid condition as well. So that is Rick Rude. Next up, with Body Slam, we've got the African Dream, Akeem. What I talked about before, I really don't know a lot of characters outside of the presentation that I've seen them in. So I've talked about Papa Shango before. I watched Papa Shango growing up. I mean, I'm very familiar with him. Even Kama. I remember Kama. I don't really remember him in wrestling and all that, but I mean, I remember the character, and that's really all that matters. I had no idea that Kama and Papa Shango were one and the same. Akeem, if you had asked me about One Man Gang, I would have known nothing about that. In fact, I don't even think I even remember One Man Gang as a kid. So probably before my time. And even when I started collecting LJNs, when I first started, I didn't know that Akeem and One Man Gang were one and the same. But, you kind of, watch things, you read things, you kind of learn about history of different characters and whatnot. Akeem on card, I don't know what it is about this particular figure that makes it so valuable. If it's really that rare to find on card. Because a lot of time, if you try to buy an Akeem on card, you're looking at like $500. And I don't remember what I paid for this. I think the seller I bought it from, I worked with them because I bought from him in the past, and I think he got it to me for like $350, which is still exceptionally high for any Hasbro figure. Ridiculous. I mean, I haven't even spent $350 on a Series 8, Bret Hart, and having to pay $350 for any Series 1 figure is, to me, ludicrous. So they have Akeem listed at 6'9", 457 pounds, and yeah, that sounds about right. If you ever seen Akeem or One Man Gang, I've talked about a lot in the past. There was like a 5-on-5 match, and you had guys like King Kong Bundy, Andre the Giant, Akeem, or One Man Gang, and Rick Rude, I think, was on that team, and I'm trying to think who else. But if you put like One Man Gang next to like Bam Bam Bigelow really isn't that big. And you look at him and you think this guy's got to be huge, but he's not. And even when you put One Man Gang like next to Andre the Giant, they're pretty comparable in size for the most part. Akeem is a giant. I mean, 6'9". To me, after kind of seeing him on screen, I'm surprised to see him, below 7 feet. The man looked huge. I kind of remember him better, and I have a custom of this figure where he's in all blue. I remember that character a little bit better. Remember seeing him in like Royal Rumbles and stuff, so not a bad figure overall. And in fact, from a play pose, I would say one of the more elite figures. Maybe not elite, because there's so many elite figures in Hasbro, but this would have to be probably like, mid-tier, maybe somewhere in like the 30 or 40 range among my favorites. And you think, well, 40, that's terrible. But it really isn't. I mean, 40 out of 92 figures, I think is a pretty solid placement. And even those guys that you start looking at in the 50s and 60s are awesome figures. Hasbro is just so loaded with some of the most amazing figures of all time. I mean, I love the LJN line. They're my absolute favorite figures to talk about. But you look at a lot of the figures and they just simply cannot compare to how well I covet and how well some of the people covet the Hasbro line. Very simple action, kind of like Andre the Giant. And they call it body slam, but I mean, he really doesn't do a body slam though. Because all he does is lean back and sling force. I don't know how that's a body slam, more of a headbutt. But Akeem overall is a solid figure. All right, and number 5 for this video. And number 12 out of 12. And this one is also a Spanish card. That's okay. If I was going to get this as an American card, I would have paid like $600. And I got it for about half that because it's... And I may have even paid less than that because it's on Spanish card. But Andre the Giant. Now, this is Andre the Giant that I remember. I don't remember Andre the Giant with like maroon, purple trunks. I don't remember him in blue trunks. I remember as Andre the Giant as a black singlet. In the black singlet. And again, one of the absolute most coveted, most rare, and most expensive Hasbro figures on card. And just like Akeem, he's got that lean back, headbutt type of deal. what I find fascinating about this particular figure, I mean, for starters, they kind of make his feet like small. Is it big? Sure, but I mean, you look at a lot of these action figures, and they're boot size about the same. But you look at the hands, and they're like monstrosities. If you kind of remember watching, like, what is it, An American Werewolf in London, you know how when David's transforming, and there's a scene where his hands laid out, and it starts stretching out as he turns into the wolf. That is exactly what these hands remind me of. Is that little transformation scene, you know, going from man to wolf, and it's like insane. I keep getting a lot of these figures. I keep reselling them, and I don't ever resell them for more than I paid for them. I think on my eBay account, it's more about, even if I sell something and all I'm getting back is what I paid into it, I think it's more about just being able to sell something to somebody and have them familiar with my account and familiar with me. And that way, you know, it entices them to come back and be repeat buyers. This one's in pretty good shape. I mean, very minuscule paint loss on the boots, but overall, beautiful looking figure. And an absolute gorgeous piece. When I did my favorite Hasbro tournament, I think he was a round 2 elimination. And that killed me because this is an elite figure. This should have been, you know, round 4 or later. And to lose him that early, not really getting the opportunity to talk about the figure more often than not. I mean, there are just so many stories. If you go in and you watch any shoot video, or just even like, what was it, the Princess Diaries, just like, you know, hearing Cary Elwes talk about his experience with Andre the Giant and stuff. It does, I can understand why Vince McMahon was tearing up when he talked about the death of Andre the Giant, and you know how special that he thought Andre was. It doesn't seem like anybody ever had a negative thing to say about him. And one of the big things about Andre is because he wanted to be the Giant. So whenever you had these really super tall guys like Big John Studd come into the ring, you know, Andre would, you know, because of his height, he would just simply step over the ropes. So when guys like Big John Studd would come into the ring, and they're super tall themselves, and so what are they doing? They're stepping over the ropes. And so when you put that comparison, you know, Andre wouldn't hold back. He would like legitimately attack the guys in ring, so it wouldn't all be for show. I also heard stories like, you know, how he wanted to be the Giant, so he never really enjoyed matches where he was facing other, you know, giants, other really tall guys. So if let's see if they've got his billing. It's in kilograms and stuff, so you don't know what. And his height is in meters, 2.23 meters. I'm gonna say 7 feet. I don't know. He had to be over 7 feet tall. I'll have to Google that up later on and find what 2.23 meters is. But what is a meter? 3 feet and change, something like that. So, what else do we know about Andre? Again, I love watching shoot videos on this guy because they would have pictures of him holding like beer cans, and you put a beer can in my hand, it's gonna take up my entire hand. This guy hold a beer can, and I don't know if you guys remember those little V8 and not tomato juice drinks. They're like that big. Well, having this big old beer can in this guy's hand is about the equivalent of drinking like one of those little V8, you know, tomato juice drinks or something. And he'd sit there and probably pack away like 40 beers in like 1-2 hour drive, and would never have to use the bathroom. And those 40 beers wouldn't even get him drunk. I'm like, that's insane. Always insulted anytime he went out to dinner with friends and they tried to pay for it. I mean, you just committed a great sin if you think you're going to pay for dinner when, you know, Andre's present. So, I remember his English being really horrific, but watching him talk in some of those videos, he, you know, I thought he did an awesome job. You know, obviously English is second language, and the man's French. Where is he from? In France. Grenoble, Alps, France. I don't know if that's the actual word or if that's just the Spanish version of it, but anyways. Oh, that's my Andre the Giant figure. With the last video covering 7 figures, took me about 30 plus minutes, and with 5 figures, 25 minutes in this video, you know, pretty balanced out, I guess, for the most part. So, yeah, that would have been an hour video almost if I had gone straight through. So, I'm glad I kind of split it up. Alright, so the 1991 Series 2 review is coming up next. Then once we get into the 92 Series 3 and Series 4 review, etc., I'm going to try and do all of these 11 series straight through. So one after the other with no interruptions. And then I'll start diving into other videos I've been holding back on. Anything outside of these videos in the short term, over the next 2 weeks, I think it's simply going to be Hasbro review. Once this is complete, maybe I'll do like the WWE monsters or the zombie collection or the mutant collection, or maybe I'll dig into like Cella Toys or Zombie Sailor or something. Do a review of the full series. I'm still waiting on Series 2 of Zombie Sailor to arrive. I mean, I've been waiting for, 8 months? I think we all have, since we placed those orders, and they still haven't come in. So I'm trying to wait for that to come in so I could do both Series 1 and 2 on back-to-back videos. But, yeah, that's it for now, guys. And then once we get through these reviews, I'll go back into regular, my favorite wrestler action figure or LJN, custom versus accessory, etc. type of videos. Alright. Thank you for watching. I will talk to you in the comments, and see you in the next video. Goodbye, everybody.